Hi, I'm Leslie,
I'm Stephanie.
and we are here today to talk to you about the headline.
Mm.
And if you have thoughts in your head, you're going to want to know what we have to say about your headline. So, before we get started talking about hands and showing you some examples, we're just going to tell you a little bit about who we are. We are the founders of the Hand Readers Guild, and we live stream here most Sunday mornings on YouTube and on Facebook to talk about hands, which is my passion. I think it's your passion.
Absolutely.
And I call myself a hand geek or a fingerprint geek sometimes.
Mhm.
And so we are here to talk about that. We want to let you know that we have a lot of videos up on our YouTube channel, which is called Hand Readers Guild. And we would love it if you go there and subscribe if you find this stuff interesting. And we also have a group on Facebook called the Hand Readers Guild Forum, and you can join that. And besides these videos, we have some diagrams, and you can interact with us and ask questions. And we also have a Facebook page that you can like if you want to support us. We are working on some classes that we'll be doing pretty soon. And we're going to get started here in a minute. But first, I'm going to let Stephanie give our disclaimer.
The disclaimer. Woo! We are live. We don't edit this. We're real people. We have lives. We have dogs that love to bark, dogs that love to just sit here and try to be in the camera. And I have some people in my house that might pop in and ask for things now and then.
So basically, what she's saying is we don't edit out all the bloopers and the things that happen that disturb us, dogs barking,
all that stuff.
All that stuff. So
Licking.
We laugh. Yeah, we laugh, and we just hope you'll laugh along with us. But that said, let's get on to looking at some examples of headlines. So, headlines. This line right here in the middle is your headline. So if you put your hand up and you kind of fold it just a little bit, you'll see most likely you have two creases that go horizontally across your hand. Now you might have one, and if you only have one, don't get worried. We're going to talk about that at the very end, so stay tuned. But most of us have two, and they are the heart line and the headline. And your heart line, we're going to talk about in a future video. And that talks about your emotional system. Your headline, which is what we're going to talk about today, addresses the wiring of your mind and how you think and how your thinking works. What else would you say about it?
How you make decisions.
Right.
All that kind of stuff.
Right. Now we're going to cover the basics here today. We could spend hours and hours on this. And I know you probably don't want to sit here that long while we geek out, because we could, but we're going to cover some of the basics, and it'll be enough to give you some information about yourself. So let's look at some examples. So the first thing we're going to talk about are short headlines versus long headlines. And in terms of short headlines, there are shorter headlines than this one. And longer ones, this is a pretty long one, but I've seen a few that are even longer.
Oh, yeah.
Than this one. They go right off the edge of the hand, like falling off a cliff. And we'll show you some examples of that. But there are short headlines and there are long headlines. And neither one is better than the other. Let's look at them a little more closely. So what would you say about the short headline? The person with the short headline,
they make quick decisions. They're really quite sharp. They have the ability to think things really quickly and make that decision. And sometimes it may not be great, but a lot of the times they're making those quick decisions.
Right. And a lot that might be that they're more interested in taking the action than spending a lot of time ruminating about it.
Let's get it done. We don't need to think about it. Let's just get it done.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And the person with the longer headline will spend a lot of time going about all the different permutations before they can make that decision. And sometimes they spend so much time ruminating on it, they actually never get to taking the action. That's one of the downsides of having the
Yes.
long headline.
Yep. Yeah. One is, so the question, what would you like for dinner? The top one would be like, I already brought dinner with us. So I got that done.
Right.
The bottom one would be like, well, I kind of like this one, but I don't like this restaurant. But I like this, but I'm not into feeling this way. So maybe. So the two of them might be able to have a nice, quick agreement by listening to the other person's interests and then taking action to go do it.
That's right. To have a short headline and a long headline in the same house, you could have a little bit of challenge there.
Yes. Yep.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Or it could work great.
Right. It could work great.
If they work together.
Right. Exactly. So the next thing we're going to look at is a strong headline versus a weak headline. And any line in your hand can be deeply carved or it can be shallow, where it looks kind of faint and you hardly see it. So any one of the lines in this particular instance, we have on the left, we have the nice strong headline. It's clear, it's straight. It doesn't have a lot of variations in it. You can pretty easily pick it out.
Yes.
On the right, I think you might have a little trouble actually finding that headline. It's so weak. If you get close up to your computer screen or your phone and look at it really, really closely, you might be able to see it. Let's show you another example of a weak headline. This one starts out a little strong and then peters out and actually kind of splits into several forks.
Yes.
So there's a lot of things we can talk about on headlines, like forks, like lines that dissect them, headlines that break. But like we said, we're going to cover the basics today. We might get into some of these more detailed stuff later. Or you can, if you have stuff like this happening on your hands, you can always pop into our Facebook group, join our group, and ask questions there. We're happy to help you figure out what's going on in your hands. We're not giving readings in that group, but we are happy to answer questions here and there. This is another kind of weak headline. The heart line is pretty strong on this hand, but some of the other lines are pretty darn weak. So you can see what we mean by it not having. So what does that mean if a headline is, let's go back, strong versus weak? When a headline is strong all the way through, like this one on the left, that person's thought processes, there's good follow through. There's not a lot of vacillation. What would you say about that?
They have a strong mindset. They're able to make decisions clearly and decisively, and able to actually take data in that and process it. Specifically this one, but they'll be able to make a clear, precise decision with both taking in all accounts of everything.
Right. Even with a long headline like this one, where they're going over it in their head many times, this process of getting from point A to wherever the end point is going to be fairly consistent. And what about the weak headline? What would you say about that one?
The weak headline, maybe having troubles making decisions, not sticking to their goals or what they want to get accomplished, no follow through. It's hard to follow through when you don't have a clear vision.
They might be under a lot of stress around certain decisions and they're avoiding it.
Yeah, I know that one.
Well, and just so you know that if this is a short-term problem, that's not going to necessarily translate into the lines in your hand. So someone who has a weak headline like this, we're talking about that kind of stress over an extended period of time.
Right. Yes.
So lots of worrying, anxiety. This may be one of those people who just can't make decisions no matter what. They just have real difficulty and they might really need some help.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to move on to our next, straight headlines versus curved headlines. This is my favorite part about the headlines. is whether a headline is straight or curved. Now, these headlines here, the curved headline we have here is a slight curve. There are variations on the degree of curviness. It can go from a slight curve like this one to some really extreme curves, and we'll show you some examples. Let's get a little closer up look at these two hands. So you can see the straight headline here. It wavers. It's not like straight, like drawn with a ruler.
Right.
But this still qualifies as a straight headline.
Mm-hmm.
So just wanted you to see that this, your headline can be super straight, like with a ruler, or not, but it's still straight. And then the curved one, like I said, it can be various degrees of curviness, but this definitely has a bend in it, so it qualifies as the curved headline. So, straight headline. We've got left brain thinkers and right brain thinkers. If you want to kind of get real basic with it, but there's some more nuance to it than that. But the straight headline does tend to be more on the logical side, wouldn't you say?
Yes. Yep. More facts. I need the data. I need to see what the process is.
Right.
Before I can make a decision, I need to see some statistics.
Right. They might want context. Actually, context is really more for the right brain thinker. Wouldn't you say? So the right brain thinker, the curved headline, the curvier it is, the more intuitive and imaginative it is. But even this particular amount of curve, it's going to put someone into more creative brainstorming, a little more big picture processing, imagining, less worried about the facts and more.
Right. I want to hear the backstory. I want to see where this came from. Where's the idea from?
Right.
I don't need facts or logic.
Right. That's where I said context.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. And, kind of like dreaming about possibilities, but like the curvier it gets, the more we tend to get into the dream world. So let's look a little further here. So this is where we get to the extremely long headlines. And as you can see with this hand on the right, we're talking about a curve that's like a waterfall.
Yeah.
Okay. So now this is where we get into some special cases involving headlines. And now we're really at my favorite part.
Yes, mine too.
Probably because we both have extreme headlines.
Yeah.
We both have them. So, and one of the things that we've both learned as readers over the decades is that if you have things in your hands and in your life, the people who sit down in front of you to have their hands read will often have the same thing. It's like somewhere you've put out a cosmic sign that says, if you have this in your hand, I can help you.
I'm open.
Right, exactly. Open for business.
Open for business.
Right. I can tell you what this means.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling like you can't wrap your head around it, we can tell you how to do that.
Yes.
Because we have extreme headlines.
Right.
So
not only can we tell you the definition, but we have experience with these particular points in our hands as well. So
experience. And so just let's talk a little more about these extreme headlines. Each one has, in our world, we have given them an archetypal name. They have an archetypal energy, and they are considered marks of giftedness, special abilities. Not that we're bragging about ourselves, but
we're special.
But hey, exactly. So basically, we've talked a little bit about gift markings here and there in our videos. A gift, by definition, must be given. And when you have one of these marks in your hand, whether it's a headline that shows giftedness, like these two headlines, or a star, we have a whole video on stars, and most of the stars that we've talked about are considered gifts. There's, I think we talked about the medical stigmata in some of our
Yep.
videos.
Yes, we have.
And that's an intuitive gift. So essentially, if you have a mark of giftedness in your hand, you have on some unconscious level agreed to give your gift. It means you must use it. This is not an optional skill for you.
Yep.
And on some unconscious level, it's like having a contract and you signed on the dotted line somewhere in that other realm, in the dream world or wherever. Sorry for the woofing.
It's all right. Kids asking questions.
Yes.
So we're good.
Yeah.
Live.
So anyway, to get back to what it means to have a gift marking in your hand, if you don't use it, things go wrong in your life.
Yep.
They create a little bit of a kind of situations show up in your life where you're being asked to, hey, this isn't working. So if you use your gift, it'll work now.
Mhm.
So they're directly related to being able to be corrected by using the gift. So it's kind of like a cosmic nudge on your shoulder. Wouldn't you say?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Now, if you've had a reading with either one of us, you might have heard us refer to it as the penalty.
Mhm.
It's like the penalty clause in your contract.
Right.
But I don't necessarily like that word because it feels like a punishment. I like to call it the cosmic nudge.
Mhm.
So why don't you talk a little bit about the straight headline? What do you say to people when you see that in their hands?
Oh, the first thing I do is I ask them, when do you stop thinking? Does your brain ever turn off? Are you always like, is there always something happening going on or what's going on? And I let them talk about it a little bit. And I'll be like, this is the gift mark of the constant, the computer brain where you have a problem to solve and you just try to do everything you can to solve that problem. But the cosmic nudge is if you don't have a problem to solve, you create a problem to solve.
Right. Basically, this means your brain is built to work with big, important issues. You
Yep.
need big, important problems to solve all day long, which means you need a job or a volunteer position or something that you're doing day in and day out where you have big, important, complex issues that you are taking apart and analyzing and figuring
Mhm.
out what to do about. And if you don't have that, if you don't give your brain something important and real to work on, it will create problems where there were none.
Yeah. Yep.
That is what your clause will say. That's the cosmic nudge,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Yes, you mentioned that already. So
Yeah. Yep. That was I've come across that, and then I will, with people that I work with or encounter, I'll be like, is that really a problem? let's figure that part out first, and then we'll go back to this because it
right.
doesn't seem like an actual problem to me.
Right.
I'll give you a problem here. No.
Well, I've talked to people who have this headline who tell me that they can't sleep at night.
Oh
They
yeah,
can't turn their
absolutely.
brain off.
Yep. So
So
what do you do when you have that? I give them some things, but what suggestions do you give them to
um
help them stop the madness?
I asked them what their job is. I start by asking them what their work is.
Mm.
And if they have this requirement as part of their work. And if not, we talk about how they can find other ways to do that with projects or something meaningful for themselves or something where they're I think you can solve it on a short-term basis with I think it has to be meaningful. I don't think like a puzzle is going to do it.
No, I don't think so either. I usually try to ask them to breathe and be in the moment. That's very hard for them,
Very hard.
but
Very hard.
it's something for them to concentrate, and it's a problem to solve.
Right. Well, I just gave somebody this assignment. I said, I pointed this out and I said, you have to really give your brain something to do. And
Mhm.
she's somebody who I follow her online and she posts. She's a business consultant. She does a lot of posting and her posts have really like stepped up. And I put a comment on there going, God, I made some comment about it and she goes, you told me to do this and I'm doing it and it's working.
Yay! She put it in a realm that she could figure out how to get rid of all of that
Right.
extra
She's really
energy.
stepped up her posts
Great.
about consulting and stuff to the next level. And
That's
it's been,
awesome.
I mean, I didn't realize when I commented
And
that
then yeah,
it was from my assignment. Had no
right.
idea.
These impacts are just so amazing. One little tiny insight, and then
Right.
people can take off. It's
Right. Right.
it's incredible. This is why we love reading hands.
Right. Yeah. Yes. So, well, since we're talking about the long headline, I thought I would just flip to this other image of this super long headline, which is almost ridiculous.
That's ridiculously long.
That is just so long.
Mhm.
So, here's one of the ways we can tell if someone is not actually using it well is when the headline actually falls off the end of the hand. So the
Mm.
headline starts on your thumb side and goes across, and you may have noticed that the short headlines don't get all the way to the pinky side of the hand.
Right.
So when it's falling off the edge, it's like the person's falling off the cliff because their brain is just taking them to places they can't even imagine.
Mhm.
It's just going on and on and on. You get monkey mind when you're not using that. So this headline, our teacher nicknamed it Hal for the computer in the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey.
How many people have seen that movie recently?
You never know. I don't know if it's streaming on any of the services.
I don't think so, but
But it's a fairly famous,
it is.
iconic archetype.
Mhm.
I mean, the whole, maybe not, maybe younger generations might not know,
They might
but
have remade it into something different.
remember the phrase that Hal would say, Dave, I can't do that. It's if you have this headline, let's just say if you have this headline and you haven't seen that movie, it is worth watching
Definitely.
because what Hal does in the movie is the perfect example of what this headline will do to your life if you are not giving it proper employment.
Right.
Wouldn't you say?
Yes, definitely. Mhm.
All right. So now let's talk about that really long curving headline. So we have, let's go back here. The first one we looked at here on the right, I mean, that's like, it's literally like a waterfall. It's like, shoo. And then
Stay
when we
in the
get to this one here, it's not quite as extremely dropping, but it drops and it goes all the way down into the wrist. And this is what we're talking about with extremely long curved headlines. Ones that make it all the way down to the base of the hand, down
Mhm.
into the wrist. So that area where this headline ends is called the Mound of the Moon. And the Mound of the Moon is where dreams live, the imagination, intuition, madness,
Yep.
in the
Little
extreme.
chaos.
Well, chaos can happen down there. Getting, confusion.
Mhm. Darkness.
Yes, but there's lots of really great stuff there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really great. So this is the headline that is the super, super intuitive headline. This is someone who's pulling up information from places where they cannot explain.
Mhm.
So it's like having a pipeline into some other realm, and you just go, I don't know how I know that, but I know it.
I just know it, and I'm going with it.
Right. And so one of the dangers with this is not trusting it, right? For a long time,
Oh,
people who have this in the beginning, they might go, how do I know this? I don't know. I can't prove it. And when you think about how we live in such a left brain world, to
mhm.
be someone who's that extremely intuitive and right brained and sensitive, because
Right.
there is a sensitivity with this, that's not that easy. And again, this is one of those gift markings. That means you have to use it. So if you are trying to fit yourself, you have this headline in your hand and you are trying to fit yourself into a left brain situation, and be really left brain and logical, it's going to hurt.
It hurts. It
It
hurts a
hurts.
lot.
It hurts. So here, we talked about all the good stuff and the bad stuff that's down in the Mound of the Moon. So let's tell you the name of this headline. This is named for the myth of Persephone. And Persephone was kidnapped by Lord of the Underworld, Hades, because he fell in love with her. She was a beautiful maiden.
So beautiful.
And he kidnapped her and brought her down to the underworld. And so she, her mother was the goddess of nature. And she cried and cried and cried. And she, just to make a long story short, she basically asked Zeus and a few other of the gods to intervene because she missed her daughter so much. So basically, Hades allowed her to come back up to the surface world for let's just say 6 months and 6 months. I know the seasons aren't really that well divided.
Right.
But you know, when she comes back up, it's spring, it's summer, things are growing. When she goes back down into the underworld, winter happens. The leaves die off.
Yeah.
It's cold, it snows. You have to work, if you live out in the forest, you have to work harder for your food. So the idea behind naming it for this myth is that if you are pulling up information from those depths, because that's what this is. This is, I mean, it's so literal when you look at what it looks like, right? It's going down into the depths. If you're pulling up information from the depths and you're really trusting it, because Persephone herself didn't mind actually being in the underworld. She kind of became the hostess for the new souls who were arriving after they died.
Yeah.
She was like the little hostess who would give them the tour. This is where you're going to live. You're dead now, and it's okay. But what happens is if you aren't using this, if you're denying it, if you're trying to fit yourself in to be one of those left brain people, which you're not, trust me, you are not, you will find that the world feels barren, that it's cold. But in a literal sense, what that means is depression, right? Feeling like you are alone, loneliness.
Yeah. Depression, like you don't have a support system. You know, it can go on, and it just can reel in your head, just like the Howl. It's so long that it can just be a recording over recording.
It's like you were talking about before, where it feels kind of dark.
Yeah.
Or you can feel stagnant, like you can't move forward.
Or numb.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All those things where you feel like you're stuck somewhere.
Yep.
And you're like the river's not flowing. Think about this as watery, because watery tends to be more about sensitive and emotional and intuitive, because this is also an emotional headline.
Right.
So you're doing your thinking less with your head, and it's almost like you're thinking with your heart on some levels.
And your intuition or your gut. So it's almost like a root chakra headline.
Right. So yes, this is not necessarily an easy one to have. Yeah. But if you're in tune with it, it can be glorious, because you are having the sense of knowing stuff ahead of time. But besides that, it's creative. It can create joy when you've got those ahas, which are done in a different way than a logical aha.
Yeah.
You can be of service to others because you have empathy to the max.
Yep.
You know, but it also comes with all those things that you have to do for yourself with boundaries and that's a whole nother
one. Yeah.
That's a big subject that we could spend a whole nother video on, and we probably will.
Yeah. Yep.
So now what I want to show you is this. This hand has both the Howl and the Persephone headlines. So the super long straight one and the super long curvy one. Now this is even harder to have if you have both. Speak from experience.
How do you make a decision?
Right. It's like, which one are you going to use?
The logic says one thing, but my gut says another completely different thing.
Oh, yeah. And, they're both gifts. So that means you have to use both. You are required. You don't get to say, I'm only going to use the one that I like or that I'm more comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
This is a lot more challenging. A
Yes.
lot more challenging. I just want to point out that it's possible
Mm-hmm.
to have this situation. And what I find is that when people have contrasting marks in their hands where they're both sides of a coin,
Mm-hmm.
they usually spend a good part of their life choosing one or the other and ignoring the flip side.
And then flipping it and doing the other one for a while and
Right.
ignoring the other one.
But then
Yes.
you're always going to have some challenge with the one that's not being used.
Ugh,
So
that's
it's
tough.
quite the challenge to learn to use both of these simultaneously. And if you have this, you might want to talk to one of us.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I think we both have experience and can address this issue. I think I've been through all the challenges on this one.
I don't have both of those, but I definitely have the Persephone one. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I have both on my left. It's crazy. It's crazy making it times.
Yeah.
But it took a long time to figure it out.
I
But
think you're doing great. I think you're on to something extraordinary.
yeah, it's
So,
when you find that way to use them,
mhm.
wow. It's wow.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a wow. I promise.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then we mentioned early on in our introduction,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you fold your hands, you're going to see the two lines, and that occasionally some people will only have one. This is what that looks like. This is what that looks like. This is a very small percentage of the population walking around with a single line instead of a headline separated from the heart line. This is a merging of the head and the heart lines, and it is called the simian crease or the simian line. And we have an entire video on the simian crease. In fact, I think it's our most popular video.
It is the most popular one. We get comments all the time about that particular one.
Right, because people who have this line feel odd.
Yeah.
And they don't understand why they're different from other people.
Mm-hmm.
And when they learn about it, and I've had so many clients with this line. In fact, I've had clients who have it and then they meet somebody else with it and they say, you have to go talk to her because she'll help you. For a long time, I got known as the lady to go see if you have the simian crease. If you have this, your head, your thinking and your feeling functions are intertwined, and it may feel like they're confused even. Am I thinking this or am I feeling it? You kind of think with your heart and you feel with your head sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
There's the challenges that come with this have to do with communication. And we're not going to go into a lot more information on this right now because, like I said, we have a full on video on this for you. And I recommend that if you need to know about this, you look it up on YouTube on our Hand Readers Guild channel. But I just wanted to point it out because if you've been watching this whole video on headlines, then you go, my hand doesn't look like any of those.
Yeah.
This might be
the reason. Mm-hmm.
Yes. All right. So that's it for headlines. We hope you enjoyed that. We had very minimal woofing from the dogs today.
I know. I only had one sign from my daughter. Sorry.
So again, we want to point out that we have a Facebook group called the Hand Readers Guild Forum, and you can join us there and ask questions. You can add questions in the comments under our YouTube videos. We check and we do answer them. Even if it's not like immediately, we do answer them. So stay tuned and check back. Subscribe to our channel if you enjoyed this. Stay tuned to hear about more things we're going to be doing and adding. from the Hand Readers Guild, and we hope to see you next time. Thanks for
Bye.
joining us. Bye.